Greetings. I'm very excited to be speaking to you today about a topic that I think is really important to all of us and increasingly so every year. My talk is going to be about the Metaverse, Web3, building blocks, and how you can build it. I want to first start with a few of the visions for the Metaverse. A lot of us have grown up with the internet and have grown up playing games, and I would argue that these were the beginning of what we like to call the Metaverse. We sort of think of the Metaverse as the world that brings all of these things together. And usually people think of it as one single large platform that might create an environment by which all of these pieces fit together. But think of all of these individual experiences, all of these games, all of these worlds that we created in the past as forming the building blocks and the beginnings of what will become eventually the Metaverse. Millions of years of human life invested in the creation of these worlds. I like to think of Ready Player One as a kind of quality vision for what the Metaverse could be. And I think a lot of us are sort of building towards this kind of future. And it's really exciting to see that the components of the Metaverse today are already starting to look and feel like the world in Ready Player One. One of the most exciting things that I see emerging is the composability in all of the layers that people are building today. So this is very evident with the NFT world, especially. But I think we're moving away from single large platforms into starting to build the Metaverse in pieces and in composable components that will be wired up together. So now when people think about the Metaverse, they like to categorize all the different things going on. And there's a lot of people talking about this across industries. And one of the things that I see just consistently being missed is just how integral all the Web3 tech is going to be. Definitely blockchains are talked about in most models these days, but it's usually sort of an afterthought or usually talked about just in the context of NFTs. Web3 is going to be fundamental to the creation of the Metaverse. Interactions of various participants will become transactions that are mediated by the economies of blockchains. And I was actually really excited to see the model from Outlier Ventures is I think the only one that tackles this head on and explores the Metaverse structure with all of the different components that Web3 is building. So I think this is like the highest quality model. But I think all of these are going to be continuing to evolve over time as we build more and more. I wanted to kind of reflect a little bit on why I think Web3 is so fundamental to the Metaverse. At the end of the day, Web3 is about adding verifiability to the web. It's adding a notion of trust through the use of cryptography and so on. At the end of the day, what blockchains are enabling is that software is eating mechanism design. So you can sort of zoom out and think of all of the activity that is happening through all of the tech that people are building around blockchains as just some instantiation of this core idea, where it's mechanism design is kind of like the inverse of game theory. You sort of design the behaviors that you want a community or a set of agents to exhibit, and then you design mechanisms to cause those behaviors and so on. And what's happening now is that we've taken the large scale software distribution technology that we've been perfecting for the last couple of decades, and now we've created a platform for mechanism design in the large. And this is why things like currencies and contracts and so on are just so easy to model in this world. But that means that all kinds of more sophisticated versions of mechanism design are up for grabs. And at the end of the day, organizations, governments, and small and big are just at the end of the day composed out of mechanisms. So I think we'll see an ever expanding range of things being built with this technology. I think it's really important that as we build Web3, we make sure to bake in critical rights into the software. So I think, but certainly many platforms can be built without these kinds of components. And it's pretty important that if we want to have a free metaverse, a metaverse that puts power in the hands of the users, then we have to bake in these values and these principles as rights directly in the code. And if we can do that, then we will have a much better metaverse. Web3 has, by building kind of mechanism design technology, enabled the creation of currencies, NFTs, virtual land, DeFi, and so on. We've seen all the DeFi world. We've seen production economies. We've seen NFTs and property. We've seen full game economies thriving in Web3, and all of these things are going to continue expanding and growing and so on. And we'll see more and more sophisticated versions of these components. So I want to talk about a few building blocks today that you can use to build your components of the metaverse or your full games and so on that might get eventually wired up into the metaverse. So the first one I want to mention is Liquidity, which is a peer-to-peer modular network stack. Liquidity underlies IPFS, Filecoin, Ethereum 2, Polkadot, and then a lot of other protocols. And it's a way in which many nodes in Web3 interact with each other to pass along messages, communicate, find content, distribute content, and so on. This is a layer where it can be extremely useful and valuable for many groups to explore building new kinds of protocols and so on. IPFS makes the web peer-to-peer. So this is the content and data platform of Web3. The main thing it does is that it enables content addressing with CIDs. These are content identifiers, and it allows hash linking from one piece of content to another. That makes the piece of content verifiable, and it makes the distribution of that content secure, so that nobody can tamper with the content. Gives you integrity checking by default, and makes the full applications can be distributed this way. And IPFS has a network. Lots of people are using it to build thousands of applications, millions of websites, and so on. So very large ecosystem with a lot of different users. And I want to talk about Filecoin, which is the storage network of Web3. So this is a crypto-powered storage network. You can think of it as a two-sided market, where on one side there are clients that want to hire the network to store data, and on the other side there are miners that want to store the user's data. Storage miners are organized through the block reward. You can think of it as a similar structure as Bitcoins, where there is a reward for participants that contribute a certain amount of power to the network, and then that power is measured in terms of the amount of storage that miners provide. Here are some of the stats. Filecoin launched just less than a year ago, and already we have 8 exabytes of capacity, which is a huge amount of data. Lots of organizations building on top of the network, and so on. We've just been tremendously a staggering amount of storage brought together. You can see here a map of where the different storage providers are, and here a picture of some pictures of the facilities that the Filecoin miners have been putting together. One of the amazing things is that the network is growing at about 60 petabytes per day. So that's about the size of a full internet archive being added to the network daily. And then the amount of storage deals is on the order of 17 petabytes. So that this is a lot less than the capacity that there is. There's just not that much data to store in Web3. And yeah, I think one interesting thing here is, like, for most of the Filecoin network, this means that we've just sort of saturated all of what there is to store in Web3. And now we have to look at all sorts of Web2 use cases and different kinds of applications. And so we want to help lots of different groups get started in moving Web2 applications into Web3 or starting new Web3 applications. Here's some examples of the applications that people are building on top of Filecoin. So you can see user drives like Dropbox or social network type applications, video networks, and so on. Filecoin right now is structured as its own blockchain, its own layer 1 blockchain that is connected to a lot of other blockchains. A lot of different bridges are being developed now. And one of the cool things that we've been working on recently is NFT storage, which is a website that just makes it easy for users to back up their NFTs to IPFS, Pinata, and Filecoin. NFT, The storage launched just a few months ago and already has most of the NFTs that exist. It has about 1.5 million NFTs, and most of them are coming from Ethereum. These are all addressed with IPFS IDs. And what's really cool for users is that all of the NFT storage is provided free by the Filecoin crypto economics. So the crypto econ of Filecoin allows for all of the storage to effectively be free for users. And NFT storage right now has a limit of about 32 gigabytes per NFT. So that's a huge amount of storage per NFT. So this even allows full games or video to be uploaded and stored as NFTs. Following on the success of NFT storage, we are launching a new website called Web3 Storage. You'll hear more about that later on, but I just wanted to plug it here. So summarizing, the building blocks that you can rely on are to use CIDs to link your data. So this is especially important for NFTs that need to link to content that should not change. To then distribute and manage your data with IPFS tools, and to hire the Filecoin network to store your data. And you can accomplish all of this extremely easily and for free using NFT.storage and Web3.storage. Go and use those building blocks. So now I want to talk a bit about how I think the metaverse will grow. There's certainly a possibility that one large company might create a large scale platform with a lot of different components and so on to sort of build a metaverse. But I think that this would be a pretty bad outcome. I think that if these large companies end up controlling such a huge swath of the metaverse, it'll lead to a pretty bad world where they get to sort of control most of the interactions of users on the planet. I also don't think it's that likely. I think what's more likely to happen is that the metaverse will start in pieces and will get wired up together, as I was describing earlier. So I think the metaverse is already here, and it's in the shape of things like the worlds that we've built for many years, and in the shape of NFTs that people are minting now and trading and so on. Users that hold a lot of these NFTs and have invested lots of their time into creating game worlds are going to want those creations to live on and to transfer over to new environments, and so we'll be investing in the success of those assets. So in a weird way, the NFT market might end up creating the reason by which the metaverse becomes an open platform, because parties will want their NFTs to continue to be useful and valuable in a whole range of applications, which just I don't think will mesh that well with kind of like the singular platform thing. One of the things that I'm super excited about is the development of NFT museums and NFT galleries, because I think that the value of art often is in the experience of the art. Transferring that experience and creating a digital analog of that experience in a high quality way will be an extremely useful and valuable component in helping us explore the metaverse. Because if we can create some rooms where we can place some of this NFT art, and we can explore it and experience it together, and we can start having meaningful experiences in virtual worlds over some of these pieces. Over time, that'll lead to an evolution of an exploration of different kinds of spaces, different kinds of environments, different kind of rooms. And over time, these might end up getting stitched together. People creating these world fragments as NFTs themselves, and then kind of allowing kind of a recursive composition of game worlds that way. Great. So I wanted to urge you to build the metaverse yourself. At the end of the day, the future is very much up to you. The course of technology in human history shows that it's usually the groups of people that build things, that create the components and so on, that end up deciding how components should behave, principles and policies that end up affecting everybody. So it's really important that you get involved in shaping and crafting the future of this technology, so that the metaverse is a metaverse that appeals to you and appeals to many other people in the world, and that the decisions of how this should be shaped are not just left up to a small group of people. I think it's super important that you get involved in helping build and craft the metaverse, and we help build applications, help build experiences, help craft the worlds themselves, help get other folks to use these systems, help test them, help. There's so many things that you can do and you can get involved in. The whole metaverse will come closer and will be realized sooner with your help. So now I have some thoughts for folks that are going to build some applications and get started on building the metaverse. So first off, it's fairly difficult to build in Web3 still. It's highly complex. There's a lot of uncertainty and so on. But over time, this is getting a lot better. So there's a lot of online resources now, and a number of hackathons have been organized to make it way easier to learn how to work with these platforms. So definitely lean on all of those resources and so on. Also note that the whole Web3 community is very help oriented. We tend to be highly collaborative. We tend to help each other a lot. So definitely reach out if we can be helpful. We're here to help. A lot of us at Protocol Labs end up hosting office hours with many groups, either in kind of like in a product or tech capacity. So definitely reach out if you're building something and you think we could help you. And one of the most important components of kind of being able to create projects and so on is to be able to fund them. Oftentimes, people, in order to be able to work on something full time, or in order to be able to build a team to take on some challenge, people need funding. So we've been working with a number of groups to kind of create like a pipeline where possible for many people building in this space to access different levels of funding depending on the stage of the project and depending on sort of the impact that they've. So you can look at things like prizes and next step grants and accelerators, investments and grants. So lean on dev resources, use hackathons to get going. And then from there, some of those projects might be accelerator ready, and then from there, raise more funding and so on. This year, there's going to be a ton of hackathons. So it's going to be a great year for developers. There's tons of opportunities for you to build new ideas, try making something. The next one that you should have in your calendar is HackFS, which starts tomorrow, July 30th. So I want to finish by talking through a lot of ideas and opportunities for builders. So there's just kind of a brain dump of a bunch of different ideas people might take away and play with. So first and foremost, there's a ton of incredibly valuable and useful data on the web that could be used in a metaverse. So there's lots of open access data sets. They just need to be able to be wired up to Web3 applications. And so the first thing somebody might be able to do is to just pull in a lot of these kinds of data sets into Filecoin. Super valuable photo archives and so on. Then you can also look at other data sets like OpenStreetMap and also the Wikimedia data sets and so on. There's just a ton of open data sets that you can go and use. And you can also think of some of the game worlds in the same way. So I don't know about the licensing here, and I don't know whether it's sound licensing in the first place, but I think there's a lot of people around the world that have spent a huge amount of their time crafting amazingly beautiful worlds. Those people would very much like to be able to use these worlds in other environments. So having some kind of equivalent of like the social media data export type structure that enables people to kind of port their Minecraft worlds into Web3 might be super interesting and valuable. And the same could be said for many other kinds of games. There's also a lot of open source games that have been built over the years, and they have super valuable content. And so being able to kind of use all of this content in Web3 would be really useful. And that just sort of requires going to the repositories of this content and addressing it with SPFS and whatnot. Now, in terms of infrastructure, I think it would be extremely useful for groups to develop better SDKs and libraries for games that are social environment applications that are trying to kind of experiment with metaverse type things. It's still pretty difficult for many groups to do that today, and I think it could get way easier. So if you're a developer who likes write writing tooling for other developers, this might be an extremely useful and valuable thing that you can do. So let's talk about NFTs for a little bit. So I think we've seen already the beginning of dynamic NFTs and so on. I think that this will accelerate, and we'll see many more dynamic kind of components. So even kind of fully dynamic rooms or entire game worlds that might be kind of mediated through NFT type structures. I think we'll see, as I was saying earlier, I think we'll see these rooms being composed, and these rooms themselves might be NFTs, and so it'd be amazing to see a product that allows people to kind of create a room and kind of sort of bound the size, allow somebody to kind of compose the things that are in that room, either by referencing other NFTs or referencing some set of materials, and then take that room and then craft it and mint it as an NFT itself. And so then people are able to kind of use these rooms and then later visit them or kind of invite other people to go and spend time in those rooms and have like kind of a multiplayer experience in that room. Or then those rooms could be themselves composed and connected to other rooms and building larger buildings and so on. So yeah, I think that I'd love to see kind of also kind of editor tools to be able to kind of use these editor tools to be able to kind of create these kinds of experiences. The whole world of video is coming to NFTs now. So there's been a few already, but the tooling has now been built to be able to do this at scale. And the one group that I'd love to draw to your attention is the Filecoin team, who just built like this phenomenal video NFT demo where you can now take a video and do all of the transcoding with their platform and mint an NFT and back up all of the data over to Filecoin and make the whole thing end-to-end a pretty simple and seamless experience. So this is a super exciting development. And the kind of like underlying rails that power this tooling are there and available for developers to use in all kinds of things. So you could use this to build many other kinds of applications. So think of things like even small movie clips or like full-length movies and so on. So I'd love to see kind of like a crypto Vine type application emerging. We also can do pay-per-view media now. So there's a lot of components and protocols to enable kind of token gated access and so on. These are still nascent and need to get connected to all kinds of new media types, and this is also something for people to build with, to be able to kind of token gate like different kinds of experiences that might be pretty interesting to develop. And with a kind of museums and galleries approach, I think it would be extremely interesting to see galleries that pay the holders of the NFTs for showing the NFT to participants coming to see to experience the gallery. Yeah, I think this kind of component could create all kinds of new ways to create a new revenue stream for artists and for holders of the NFTs and so on. And you can think of the museums and galleries themselves as being kind of composed out of these composable room pieces and so on. Great. So now I'd love to talk about games briefly. So, it bears saying that at the beginning, I think it'll just be super successful for many game developers to just look through the different categories of games that are highly popular and so on, and make versions of those games just in the crypto world using NFTs and crypto land and so on. And I think that might not be as exciting or as interesting, but I think it'll be very successful, and successful games are required in order to kind of bring about the metaverse. I'd also encourage game developers to try crafting games using NFTs that already exist. So instead of kind of going to create your own set of NFTs, look around at the NFT sets that already exist and try to make a game out of those. So for example, you could make an art-inspired game and use a lot of the art NFTs that already exist. Or you could do a sports-oriented game and use the NFTs that exist around NBA Top Shot. And the same goes for crypto land. So I think if you're making a game, you could totally use the existing crypto land and build a game on top of that. And so that will increase the utility of all of these crypto assets and will make for a richer experience, which will kind of start, again, stitching the metaverse together. Design their own kind of personalized spaces and create an environment in which they can kind of invite people to come and hang out and spend some time together and whatnot. And again, then, if somebody goes and creates their room, then maybe they can connect their room to somebody else's room, or they can connect their room to a hallway in which they can quickly jump to all the rooms of their friends and so on. And so I think like that, those kinds of experiences are buildable now, and we just need sort of like the composable, somebody to take an approach with composable primitives in mind. And then I think I highly encourage folks to go take a look at Gather. I think they've done a phenomenal job with creating a shared experience with kind of audio, video, and in an environment that you get to design and move around and so on. I just wish it was way more Web3 oriented. So it might be interesting to kind of build plugins or build pieces of this kind of thing in a Web3 context. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is kind of, move towards creating programmable environments where users can imbue the objects and rooms themselves with code. And, that presents all kinds of interesting, difficult problems that have been, discussed in the literature of computer science for many decades. But there's some really good system designs out there that have been explored in the past. And there's good ways of doing this. So I highly recommend that folks try out building these kinds of programmable worlds and programmable objects. Having full programmable ability is too much power, so you have to sort of limit the interactions and limit what people can do. Great, that's it for me for today. Good luck building the metaverse, and take care.